Welcome to the Respectful Divorce Podcast. If you're considering a divorce, it's important to know that you have options for how you divorce. On the Respectful Divorce Podcast, we explore those options and provide advice from divorce professionals. I'm your host, Tim Crouch, and we're talking with members of Central Florida Collaborative Divorce. Wendy Aikin, a collaborative divorce attorney, and Paul Shafranski, who's also a collaborative divorce attorney. Wendy and Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
So I wanted to just ask both of you, as attorneys, you have lots of options on where you might practice, your practice area. How did you all end up in the divorce area? Wendy?
I started out doing litigation, a lot of civil trial work, and always did a fair amount of family work as a part of that. But back in the day, some almost 40 years ago, when I was doing the work, it was all litigation, not necessarily fault-based, but very polarizing, throw dirt up on them. It was about win and losing and who looked better in court. And I eventually, when I found out about the collaborative process, converted my firm to a collaborative practice for the very reason that I was tired of that. It didn't work for families. It didn't fit. It didn't feel right. It certainly wasn't helping children. And it wasn't building a better future with a reconfigured family for these folks. So we committed to change over to a collaborative process, which is much more interest-based and humane and kind, but at the same time getting to the same result. And I've done almost exclusively that for the last almost 20 years now and couldn't recommend it more.
Well, Paul, how'd you end up in the divorce practice area?
So in a past legal life, I practiced product liability among other areas, but it was a very different area of law. It was very corporate, and it was certainly not something I went to law school hoping to do. It wasn't bad, but I also reached a point where I wanted to work for people, individuals. This was pretty much working for corporations, every motion, every action, having to run up a chain of command of 3, 4, 5 different approval processes. And it really felt very soulless for me. Lots of people love it. I just didn't really love it and realized I want to work for individuals. I want to help people. And at the same time, one of my best friends was leaving a work situation and thinking about going out on her own. And she had been practicing family law for years at that point. So we kind of reconnected and decided to go into family law together. So we started our own firm. It was about 7 or 8 years ago at this point, and we've been doing only family law ever since.
And then how did you end up gravitating toward collaborative?
Well, my law partner, her name is Tara Steach. She was the one who told me from the very beginning, you need to get into collaborative. Those are the cases you want to look for. That's the better way of doing it. Those are the less frustrating ones. She didn't say they were easy, but she did say those were the ones that I needed to try to get into. So I just took her word for it. I joined the various organizations, took the training, and immediately liked what I heard. It made so much more sense to me than the litigation model and trying to graft a family, kid, emotional issues onto a system that says there's a winner and a loser, which just didn't make any sense. And it felt destructive for a lot of families. And when I heard about collaborative, I thought, I didn't even realize this was a possibility that you could get together and actually try to constructively go deal with these issues, everybody working on the same or toward the same goal, and find solutions that aren't necessarily easy, but that are more durable, long lasting, and that the process isn't as destructive as sometimes the litigation process can feel for families. And so I immediately I took it and ran, and I did never look back.
I'm struck by your saying that it's not easy. This is not everybody sitting around the table singing Kumbaya, is it?
No, I hear that cliche sometimes. I have yet to sit around the table. I've had multiple cases with Wendy, and we have not sat around a table singing Kumbaya yet. Maybe someday we will. But no, it's not. It's, getting down to the nitty gritty. It's dealing with difficult issues. It's asking difficult questions. It's certainly not premised on everybody going in ready to hold hands and sing, campfire songs together.
Yeah. So what is it that makes collaborative different as a way of resolving a divorce?
You're working with a team and you're committing not to go to a litigated process as a part of one of the fundamental concepts. The team consists of a mental health neutral or facilitator and also a financial professional. So this couple has literally 4 people, the one spouse's attorney, the other spouse's attorney with whom they have attorney-client privilege, and a neutral financial and a neutral mental health professional that are all there to try to solve for this family to reconfigure it in a way that will be durable, where both people come out okay on the flip side as far as their kids are concerned and parenting, but also as far as their finances are concerned.
And your role as attorneys, how is it different in the collaborative process versus your role in a litigated process?
Well, your role is the same. You're an advocate for your client, right? There is attorney-client privilege and confidentiality with your communication. However, you have so many more options in terms of what you can do as an attorney in the collaborative process. Instead of, in a lot of cases in the litigated model, I have a question. I have to go through an attorney that I have possibly never worked with, that maybe is an attorney that likes to, how shall we say it, run cases on a hamster wheel until there's no more money to be made, that like to litigate extensively or that are hostile themselves. It's really hard to try to solve problems, because really what we're talking about here is trying to solve problems, right? We're not talking about these are complicated issues for the families, but we're really just talking about solving problems. And you really can't do that a lot of times with an attorney on the other side that isn't invested in solving problems, because solving problems makes the case go away, right? Keeping the problems going on keeps the case going on. So it can be really difficult to actually solve problems with an attorney on the other side that is not invested in that. Whereas in the collaborative process, from the start, this attorney that's working for the other, quote unquote side, really just the other member of this family, that they are also invested in solving problems. That's their goal. So you can explore options that maybe are unorthodox or creative. You can talk about what's really going on. You can talk about some of the emotional issues that are fueling some of the concerns, or, are we really talking about towels, or are we talking about something that happened 6 years ago? We can have those conversations. You just really can't do that in the litigation context. It's very paint by numbers. It's a one-size-fits-all approach for the attorneys and the client.
I've heard some people say that it's the neutrals, the mental health professional or divorce coach, and the financial professional, who are kind of the secret sauce in collaborative, because they bring such expertise to it. Wendy, I see you really smiling as I say that. You agree it's the secret sauce?
Absolutely. We learn in every single case, the attorneys do, let alone the clients. The mental health neutrals, having the teamwork and the psychology background, are able to speak to our clients and the other side in a way that they can hear it. They're able to navigate the team dynamics and shore us up if we need calling out, and they're just enormously helpful. The financials are equally beneficial because they're compiling one unified spreadsheet. They're compiling financial and tax and other information that is invaluable. We may be attorneys, but we don't have the background that they do in the finances to be able to talk about what might be appropriate divisions of assets that we would not even have thought of or taken into account the ramifications, let alone tax consequences and real estate issues. So it's enormously helpful to have both of those players at the party and to have a cohesive team help these two people get to the other side.
And they are neutral. They're not representing one side or the other, but they, I guess you could say, represent the couple.
In a sense, I mean, often the most valuable thing about the financial neutral is that the spouse does not have to take it from the other spouse. If one spouse is more financially savvy, the other spouse doesn't have to believe him or her because they said it is so. The information is vetted by the financial neutral, who says, yep, I've collected the documents, I've evaluated them, I've talked to the plan administrator. This is what's here, or guess what? This is missing. We can't make these decisions until we see the non-compete or the confidentiality agreement or some other document that one of the attorneys or the couple may not have even thought of. So they're really benefiting everybody so that when the decisions get made, they're being made with enough information, with knowledge, and then they can come to a result. It's enormously helpful on the financial side and the mental health side as well.
And I guess there's the parenting component that the mental health professional helps to guide. Can y'all talk about that, Paul?
Sure. So in my cases, at least, the mental health neutral oftentimes will have parenting meetings with the client together, separate and apart from the full team meetings, to discuss and go over exclusively parenting issues. What are the schedules like? What are the concerns of both parents? What are these children like? Are there any special needs considerations? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? Everything that you would need to know going into forming a parenting plan, which is what they ultimately end up doing through those meetings with the mental health neutral. That parenting plan is then reviewed by the attorneys like normal to make sure there's nothing that jumps out as potentially problematic, that all the legal I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And what that ends up doing, I find, is that it keeps the parenting issues from overlapping with other issues, financial issues in particular, or other issues that we're dealing with in a divorce. So we're not having proxy fights or proxy disagreements about this financial issue or that financial issue, but it's really about not, a parenting issue that's maybe not, one parent's not getting what they want. And it's just all starts getting blended together, and it becomes very difficult to solve for this problem when it's really this other problem that we are having that hasn't been addressed. Instead, it's just that you hand it off to the person who knows more about children, who knows more about the emotional considerations, developmental stages, what's appropriate logistically for time sharing. You hand that off to somebody who is more of an expert, frankly. I mean, how many times I tell clients, I'll put on an amateur therapist hat to deal with this or I'll put on an amateur financial hat to try to deal with this. But law school does not give you a training in psychology, child development. It doesn't give you a CPA license. It does not give you an accounting degree or background. It doesn't even give you the ability to work an Excel spreadsheet, right? So those are things that other people have more training and background in. So why not bring them in and have them help with these discrete issues and questions like a parenting plan, co-parenting skills, instead of having the attorneys try to figure it out as they go when there's somebody that can do just a much better job with it.
More cheaply and often offline, not part of a full team meeting. It's just efficient with somebody who lives and breathes a co-parenting time-sharing schedule. They're much better served by meeting with that person one-on-one.
I've heard it said that part of what happens in the collaborative process from the parenting standpoint is it puts those parents on a better track to co-parent together after the divorce is over.
Absolutely. We've seen amazing things happen in that regard because we build resources around these people. If somebody needs an individual therapist, we have resources for that. If somebody needs a child therapist, if somebody needs a psychological evaluation, we have the resources to match them up with who they need to be paired with. And sometimes if there are psychological issues of concern, we can have that therapist talk to the treating therapist if there's already somebody in the mix. I mean, we just have so much more depth and breadth for dealing with issues and problems when they come up with people that are trained, whether it's an alcohol abuse issue or a drug issue or an online pornography issue, whatever might come up. We're not there as attorneys biting our fingernails wondering, oh no, now what do we do? We have somebody we can reach out to, and they're right there on the team. Not there to do therapy. They're not doing therapy on anyone, but they're there as a resource and just knowing how to speak the language to touch and reach the person to effectuate positive change, which we see an awful lot of.
Paul, I see you perhaps wanting to add something to that.
Well, yes, the collaborative process itself is premised on all of us, including both of the clients who are they're divorcing, right? So there's something's off, something's not going well between them, but they are going to sit in a room or on a Zoom together and have some of these difficult conversations with the mental health neutral in the parenting plan meetings and with the entire team during the full team meetings to discuss a lot of the larger issues, the option building, the information gathering, stuff of that nature. So instead of litigation where both parties are siphoned off into their silos and you have a representative who will speak on your behalf and then that person will speak on the other party's behalf, and really the parties themselves oftentimes don't end up talking with each other for weeks, months, I mean in some of the worst cases years. How do they then come back together and then say, okay, the divorce is over, check. Let's now talk about soccer practice. Are you going to pick them up? Or how are we doing dance? Are you going to be there? I have to go out of town next week. Can you help with that? I mean, how are you going to have those co-parenting conversations when you've been told now and trained and learned to keep your hunches up, to be on the defense, to not communicate with each other? Collaborative is different. It says we're going to talk and have these conversations together, including both the parties, even while we're waiting through these difficult times, so that when we do get to a point where we're co-parenting without, the guardrails of the team there in place, you are used to at least talking in some capacity. We're not asking you to jump off a cliff and start co-parenting. We've been talking for months at this point. The parties have been talking with each other, at least through the meeting. So it sets them up to have those conversations and co-parent better, I think.
And the bottom line is to have healthier kids.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So you all are both members of Central Florida Collaborative Divorce. Can you tell me a little more about that organization?
They tried it how many years ago? Somewhere between 15 plus, and it sort of died on the vine. And then it was resurrected by a core group of 8 attorneys, financials, and mental health who put $500 a piece in as seed money to get this off the ground. And it's now grown into a membership. I think our last year's numbers were over 140 members. We have a training program in Central Florida that works out of Berry Law School. And we estimate that there may be as many as, 700, 1,000 people or more that have been trained in collaborative law in the 2-day training through Berry Law School. Those folks often at that point have drunk the Kool-Aid and join our organization. And we have more and more of the long-term experienced lawyers who are tired of litigating and performing useless acts on behalf of clients, that they are gravitating to the collaborative process. So we are a strong local group, statewide group, and recognized internationally in 2025 as compared to 20 some years ago when divorce was not handled this way.
And on the website, each of your members has a profile so people can kind of check out who's a member, who's been trained in collaborative, and find someone that might match up well for them.
Yes, we just revamped our website. So there's a big online member directory that has a little background about each attorney. It also has mental health neutrals, financial neutrals. It also has a bunch of allied professionals who are people that can come in for a discrete task, like a potential realtor or a financial advisor, things of that nature. We have all of their members are listed online, also their websites if they have one, so that people can check out maybe more about some of our members if somebody seems to be a good fit for them, and then they can reach out to them however they see fit.
So we're doing this podcast in advance of Divorce with Respect Week, and your practice group is participating in Divorce with Respect Week. That's an opportunity for people to do a consultation that week with one of the professionals, whether it be an attorney or a mental health professional or a financial professional, for free. What should someone expect when they have that initial kind of conversation with one of your members?
It's a low investment of time and no money, and they coordinate with the individual offices. for a minimum and maybe in some instances maximum of 30-minute call to get a broad brush information about the collaborative process. And they can select to talk to an attorney, talk to a facilitator, mental health type person, or talk to a financial, or even talk to one of the allied professionals who's collaboratively trained and is a resource to the group, as Paul says, whether they're a realtor or a child specialist or whatever it might be, to get that perspective of why this process benefits couples and children probably a lot more than the more traditional litigation model. So it's a nice intro, and folks have the opportunity to choose the discipline or pick more than one discipline and talk to that person and get any question they have answered in that time frame. And then they can select an attorney or not from that, or a financial or a mental health, and go from there.
Probably goes a long way towards helping their decision-making process in terms of if they want to get a divorce, right?
If they want to get a divorce, and also what process they want to use to get a divorce. I mean, some people are able to do a kitchen table agreement, or they can go straight to mediation, don't pass go. But there are a lot of folks with assets and kids who feel that they need more and don't want a process that alienates people and families, and wants to try to do it in a better way and a more considerate way. And we're here to help any and all of those folks and help them with their legal process options so they can then make an informed decision.
So if somebody was interested in talking specifically with either one of you, what's the best way to get in touch with you, Wendy?
My office is in Winter Park, Florida, and I'm listed on the website. And you can go from our local website or call our office number, 407-644-4040. And those are virtual Zoom 30-minute consultations that we will do. There are 3 attorneys here that are available to do that in the week that we have designated for Divorce with Respect.
Yeah. Paul, what about you? Best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. So you can go to our website, and that's at artemisfamilylaw.com. And on the top right corner of the screen, it'll say schedule a consultation, and you can click on that, and that'll let you access my calendar and see when there are availabilities for 30-minute consultations. And you just pick the one that works for you. You can do that from your phone even. And then we'll get that set up on the calendar. You can also call. My number is 407-734-2914. I have one law partner, and either of us, we both do collaborative cases. We both love collaborative work. So you can schedule a consultation with whoever either seems like the better fit or whoever has the first availability, if that's a concern.
We'll put links to both Paul and Wendy's websites in the show notes, along with a link to the Central Florida Collaborative Divorce website. We appreciate both of you joining us on the Respectful Divorce podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for having us.
This important programming note, Divorce with Respect Week is coming up March 3rd through 9th. You can talk with lawyers, divorce coaches, divorce financial experts for free. To learn more about the divorce process and your options, simply go to divorcewithrespectweek.com to find professionals near you. For more information, once again, that's divorcewithrespectweek.com. We'll put all of those links in the show notes. This is Tim Crouch reminding you that collaborative divorce is a better way to untie the knot.